This is like a reality 30-week check-in, like, wow, I really can do it or not.
Soon, Nadia.
Wow, yeah, so far people have been saying I'm quite chill, but I'm not sure
it?
after this.
Hi, Cecil.
Hey, Zara.
And welcome back to another episode of Clarity's Hush Podcast. As you can tell, we're very happy and very sad. Happy because this is a brand new set.
Beautiful.
So beautiful. But sad because this is our very first episode in the new set, but Jeremy can't be here with us today. She's feeling a little bit under the weather. But today we have a special guest, and by special, I mean very, very special.
Very
because
special.
She's the youngest member of Singapore's 14th Parliament, representing Ang Mo Kio GRC. Let's give a warm welcome to Nadia.
Thank you. I was saying the cushion smell very new.
Huh? Yeah, right?
Got the shop smell.
Tell our viewers more about yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Nadia. I think as Hazel mentioned, I currently serve as the youngest member of parliament here in Singapore. And so parliamentary duties, I think, other than what you see us in parliament, sometimes in TikTok snippets, we also do a lot of groundwork in our constituencies. I serve in Ang Mo Kio, which is actually, even though I'm the youngest, it's one of the oldest constituencies. So I have about 25% of my residents who are over 80 years old.
Wow.
But I love the dynamic actually that has panned out. I mean, I really see them as parents and grandparents, and as much as you try to look after them, they also look after you. I'm very grateful. So there's groundwork. We also look after the estate. So all your town council complaints, yes, we also...
My gosh.
Oh, you want to start, is it? Okay, later I take my notebook.
It's more like I feel for you.
Oh,
because
thank you.
There must be so many complaints coming
Thank you.
in.
Yes, let's not go there. But yeah, we also play other roles. I mean, I also, as the youngest, speak on different issues close to the heart of many of our youth. And as a woman, which is why we're here today, and as a minority, I mean, these are some of the different issues that I speak about.
She does everything.
You wear so many hats. What got you started in the first place?
I mean, I've been volunteering since I was 15. And I think, my dad actually was affected during the SARS period. So
Okay.
pre-COVID, my dad used to be in the airlines. He flew for 30-something years. And he and many of his batch were affected by what happened during SARS. He was a sole breadwinner at the time. And so for us, it was quite a difference. And I started working from quite early on. And without financial assistance, I wouldn't have been able to complete whether it's my A-levels or whether it's uni. So a lot of things I'm very grateful for. And so my mom always said, you should then sort of do something and contribute in whatever way you can. So I volunteered since I was young. And I think for me, I see it as a way of continuing to serve and do work in the community. Prior to our batch of MPs, you mentioned Parliament, we've actually only had 4 Malay women in the history of Singapore politics.
Oh, wow.
I never knew that.
4 Malay women.
Wow.
So it's former President Halimah, Dr. Fatimah Latif, Dr. Intan, and Muaz Rahayu, who currently is still serving as well. And then Mariam and myself, I mean, we're the 5th and 6th. And I think at the end of the day, we all bring different voices to the table.
Of course.
I felt that it was something that when presented with this chance, I think it was something that I thought, okay, I'm going to
Take it up.
do my best. And if I'm useful, I'll try.
Wow.
Wow.
Nadia here is like the epitome of a woman who has fought many battles, like growing up, being put in a stressful condition, your dad being the sole breadwinner, and to have that job taken away from him because of the pandemic, right? Have you ever heard of this phrase? Women can never win.
But we disagree.
I disagree.
You disagree?
I disagree.
Okay, tell me more.
I feel like especially in this day and age, we have a lot of space and a lot of grounds to fight for ourselves. I wouldn't say things are the same if it's my mother's or my grandmother's times. Yeah, but for now, I feel like we are able to fight for ourselves,
I think when I think about women can never win, I almost slightly agree, only because I think we don't allow ourselves to win because we always want more from ourselves. Like we never feel like we've won. Like, I mean, you look at Nadia, right? And she wears so many hats. She does so many things. I look at her and I'm like, actually, when do you sleep? Do you have 36 hours in a day?
I have a time turner.
But she does so much, right? And you wonder, like, how is it that someone can do so much and play so many roles? I mean, she's mummy to be.
Hi. Ta-da.
30 weeks in now.
Thank you.
And it just feels like, you always look at someone else, you look at another woman, and you just always feel like, how are you doing all this? Yeah.
So you mentioned that you disagree. Women can never win. You disagree with this sentence. Why so?
Okay, so I think you both raised very valid points, and both that I agree with. I think one is that we've come a long way, and we stand on the shoulders of women who have come before us, and men also who have been
Champion
great allies,
first.
great champions who have also supported the building of this space. And I think that's something that's really important to acknowledge. But with this increased space is also increased possibilities. And that's where I think what Azura said comes in as well, that actually a lot of it is beyond the societal expectations. It's the expectations that we place on ourselves, and sometimes it's just impossible bars. Yeah. I was very blessed in my early career. I did corporate M&A, and I had this amazing lady boss who said that, okay, at the end of the day, you can have it all, just maybe not all at the same time. And I think that's something that's really important to remember. And look, I mean, everyone has different ways of how they want to lead their lives. But I guess thinking about it from a career perspective, since it's my first boss, one thing that I used to share with my juniors is if you print out a calendar, like a monthly blank calendar, and fill in your time genuinely how you're spending it for a month. What's important to you, right? I mean, are you going to the gym? Are you meeting up with your friends? Are you going to church? Or how much time in a day? And all of these are different colors. And then when you look at it at the end of the month, you ask yourself, is this congruent with how my purpose, my values, how I want to live my life? Because until all that is congruent, I think it will always feel like you are either lacking something, letting someone down, including yourself, or just not achieving this impossible bar. But that piece of paper and how you spend your time has to speak to what you want to achieve for yourself.
Shall we sit down after this and do?
A lot of pink highlighters.
As Nadia was saying that, I was actually thinking about my own calendar, like in the past month, because in my smartphone, the calendars, it comes with colours, right? Work is one colour, personal thing is another colour. Yeah. And I find that most of them are filled with pink, which is work-related events. And then I think about it, is this how I want to spend my life? Is this my value and my purpose in life? At this point, I would say yes.
Yes.
Because I want to have it all in my career.
Yep.
But moving forward, maybe that should change.
Yep. And I really want to call that out because I think a lot of times we talk about like work-life balance.
Yep.
And different people have different views. There's no one right or wrong thing. But again, because of my experience in legal practice, I realized very early that I think it's more about integration. And when I say integration, I don't mean that there's no boundaries. You know, like your employer's calling you at 1 a.m., you have to pick up a Zoom call. Okay, no. That's not what I mean.
Can we employ the Australian rule?
No, okay, right to disconnect. I think that you should have boundaries, but every person's boundaries will depend on you. And like you said, right, that the truth is we spend so much time at work. And for me, like, it would be impossible for work, whether my social impact work or my work on the ground as an MP, to not be part of my identity. I mean, I'm sure work is part of your identity to some extent. And that's why it goes back, I think, to congruence. And, for different women at different times in their lives, different things take priority, and it's a sliding scale. It can change. I mean, it doesn't mean that that's what it is forever. And ever. But I think we also tend to shame women who either prioritize work or prioritize family. And I don't think we should do that,
I think everyone, first of all, should be able to choose what they want to do and what's important to them.
Yeah.
Very recently, I heard about this story of this woman who was struggling basically with her life. So she, I believe, was getting a divorce, was handling 2 kids on her own. And at that time when she was still married, I think she was just like not working or working part-time. And now that she was a single mother, she had to, sort it out. She was trying to work, but at the same time, she had 2 kids to handle.
Yeah.
And then someone who was very close to her kept going on and on and on about just build your career. Like, can you just not think about everything else and just build your career?
Not so easy lah.
Yeah. And I think that really hurt her because that may be important to you, but right now it's the last thing that I can do. Like, even if I wanted to, it's the last thing I can do.
So a lot of times I feel like a lot of career-oriented women have to take a step back when it comes to family. Like myself, I feel so guilty when I cannot go home to visit my parents at least once a week.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad. I'll see you on Sunday.
Me too, Mummy. But have you ever felt the stress and the pressure to be a good daughter?
I think this goes back to what Azura was saying, that I'm very blessed to have an amazing parents. My mom and dad, they've really made me who I am today, and with my younger brother as well. So the pressure doesn't come from them.
It comes from
the
other
pressure
people. Or yourself.
Well, from myself, or there are comments like oh, your daughter very busy but my parents are really wonderful about it. And I think as the eldest child, you also kind of take on a lot of the decision making, planning, sorting things out. So I do think a lot of pressure comes from myself, wanting to make sure I have the time, I have the this, I have the that. So there was once when I was in a certain job and I was earning not a lot of money.
Okay.
And at that point, I made that decision because I wanted to pursue that role. But at the same time, I also thought, okay, maybe it'll give me a bit more flexibility as compared to corporate M&A. And so in that role, I remember I had the chance to bring my dad for his cataract surgery.
Okay.
And I could sit with him and wait with him and finish the whole thing, right? Which I would not be able to do if I was in my former role. So I was thinking to myself, okay, I made the right choice, right? I could accompany my dad and etc. But then we got to the counter to make payment. And because, my dad is of the older generation, he could get certain medical subsidies. And the polyclinic had told him, okay, this is the amount of your cataract surgery. And you get 50%. So the interpretation was that was the total amount. And the amount you pay will be half.
Okay.
But when we went to the counter, they said that this is the amount. It's already half.
It's already subsidized.
This is the 50%.
Okay.
And I mean, it wasn't a super huge amount, but it was more than what was in my bank account at that point in time.
Right.
And I remember just thinking, oh, wait a minute, like these are very real trade-offs between I had the time to accompany my dad and do this, but at the same time
Financially, you had to take a step back.
you have to reassess. So again, it goes back to I think what you can or need to prioritize at that point in time, and there's really no right or wrong answer.
Now that you're about to become a mother yourself,
Oh yes.
have you thought about how things are going to change, or how your time management is going to change, or what you're going to have to give up? Because it must have crossed your mind, I've been taking care of people. Is it maybe time for me to take care of my own child?
You ask me very difficult questions. I mean, I think firstly, the truth is that none of us go at this alone. We, each have our own support systems, whatever that might look like for different people. For some, it's your closest, oldest friends. For some, it's your grandma, your auntie, your uncle, your parents, your husband, etc. So your partner. It really depends. And I'm very grateful for the tribe that I do have. So firstly, I recognize that it won't be me alone doing this. I would like to think that with a child adds to your life rather than
Takes away from it.
Yeah.
And I hope to build that kind of, parent-child relationship which does that. I think a lot of young parents these days, they do things like take their kindergarten kid out for like bandung and then have a real conversation about, I have another friend who used to call her son Little Man.
Okay.
And that was just the way that she communicated. And her life didn't totally change because she didn't allow it to.
Yeah.
In the
Okay.
sense that it wasn't, okay, we can only go out in between this time, and then we're very, fixed about it. So my husband and I have a lot of these conversations about what we think it would be like, or the kind of parents we hope to be. But at the same time, I think it's very like sabai. I mean, at the end of the day, right? Like you don't know for sure what it's going to be like. And my sort of approach is take things as it comes. I mean, you can have a plan.
Yeah.
But
But that could very well change.
it could well change. I mean, politics was not on the cards. So did I see this as my 5-year plan? No.
But here we are.
But here we are. And at the end of the day, God's the best of planners, I think. So, you just roll with the punches and you prepare as much as you can. And baby's been very guai so far, which I'm very grateful for. So don't come out so early. Mommy got a lot of things to finish first.
On that note, can I ask a very real question?
Yes.
Have any residents come up to you and ask if you would be less available after you give birth?
Honestly,
I'm
no.
sure. Oh.
No. And to be honest, I've had very, very kind residents who have also said like, because my husband and I didn't really share the news until I was quite far along, until I think I was past 6 months. And, a lot of residents have well-meaning said like, girl, like MP, you should have a child soon and all that. So I'm like, yeah, you asked, asked, I have delivered. I will be delivering.
Literally.
And actually there have been residents saying like, I can help you babysit.
That's so cute. I still can, by the way.
Yeah, okay, very good. I know what you say. And I'm very grateful. And I think there are trade-offs that I will have to make in terms of how much time. I think, some people talk about being able to take like a year off work to be able to spend with the child for the first year. I mean, I think I just have to also be very practical and realistic that I have different commitments in my life, and that's not an option for me today. Is there guilt? There is. The other day I had 6 events. And the first one was quite a long stretch, and I was on my feet, I was walking up and down. And my first meal of that day, I think, was around 1 p.m. and I hit tap out and I was eating in the car. And that's just the reality of what it is sometimes. So then I went through the rest of my day. I finished at about 9. It was mid-autumn. I went home and I just remember feeling so guilty. Like, I didn't get to feed you properly today. I was, I didn't get to rest. I didn't put my feet up. My feet were really swollen. I was just thinking, okay, I'll try harder. Yeah. And I think that's just part of the ups and downs and what we have to bear along the way. But it shouldn't stop you. It shouldn't stop you from trying to achieve all the things you want to.
Yes, to balance it. What about your role as a wife?
As a wife?
Do you think you're living up to that?
Oh no!
So what it looks like to you and not anyone else.
Yes, correct. Only to yourself.
So you have to ask my husband.
I call his number.
Okay, she knows my husband. I think, it goes back to what are the different versions and visions of it. And I think that's something that's very important between partners, that you have that agreement and understanding about how you're going to be there for each other and in what way. So I'm really very fortunate to have an understanding and supportive husband without whom I would not be able to do half the things that I do. And it was a very serious conversation early on that if I were to go down this path, this is what it will look like. And we've had to adjust the sails along the way and have very difficult conversations. But I think at the end of the day, we are ultimately stronger for it. And I think the most comforting thing to be able to go home and be like, yeah, it was a really hard day. Or yeah, it was a really great day. And I know that he likes to hear the stories of the residents' interactions because he knows that that's important to me. So I don't know if I'm fully like A+, but I think it's like, okay, right, B? I don't know. So you really have to ask him. Oh, sweat.
The moral of the story is choose your partners wisely.
Yes.
But like when you do your walkabouts, when you meet your residents, do you see women who, struggle with the expectations of caring for the elderly because you have so many elderly residences there?
I think firstly, caregiving, whether you're a son or a daughter, is incredibly challenging. And a lot of times you can feel like your entire life has been put on hold or you need to put it aside in order to look after the care recipient. And a lot of times it does fall to the daughter. Sometimes unfairly, right? Sometimes a bit too casually, like an unspoken thing, the daughter,
like they just assume,
the daughter will look after and especially during COVID, I think, where a lot of our elderly are also very independent. They want to live alone. My grandma, for example, is one of them who is fiercely independent. She's 89.
Wow.
But she's like, yep. She only very recently consented to having a helper at home. But before that, she really wanted, and I see that in so many of my residents who are very resilient, who are very independent, who don't want to give up or don't want to have someone else in their home. So for a lot of caregivers who have an idea of how care should be given, they also can't always deliver that care because, they don't, ask mommy to come and stay with me. Mommy don't want. And so I have to make this commute, every day to look after, and it is really, really challenging, especially when you also have your own, say, like kids, your own home to run, your own job to do, which is why I think having more access to resources. So, for example, knowing that there are active aging centers also in the neighborhood that maybe, you don't have someone there 24/7, but maybe you can control when you want to step into a day activity center, meet other people. And then when you're done, you go home.
Yeah.
But there are unfortunately cases also of very real burnout. And even beyond that period of caring, I think at some point, if the person you're caring for has passed on, it is incredibly challenging because you feel like so much of your identity has been, I am this person's caregiver.
Yeah.
And so who am I now?
Yeah.
And it's not just, daughters or children, but also spouses. Because at the end of the day, in terms of health span, lifespan, women in Singapore tend to live, I think it's about 5-6 years longer than men. So for a lot of wives who, especially of the older generation, like you were saying, have grown up, through the years, maybe not working for a long time. And a lot of their identity has really been tiered to, I am Mrs. someone. That can be such a huge shift that they need to be supported. To realize that you are more, there is still stuff for you to go out there and achieve. Yeah.
Very sad.
Sorry.
But these are very, very real,
Very real.
stories, and these examples, we might very well face them one day ourselves as well. But I also think, like, at this day and age, when it comes to social or economic status, women are no longer at a disadvantage. Like last time, when it comes to cases like that, maybe the men will be bringing in more money and then the women will be pitching in less. But I feel like now it's more of like a 50-50. Sometimes the woman can also be earning more than the men.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think again it goes back to how you and your partner choose to run the household and live your life. I do think that in this day and age, there are more dads who want to be very active parents, who also want to, spend time with their little ones. And, I think the steps that we've taken towards paternity leave and shared parental leave are sort of the policy implications of what society is asking for. And in that case, I think there also are sometimes really difficult expectations on men, where the expectation is, okay, yeah, you are supposed to bring in more but then you're also supposed to do all
Be
these
more
other
active,
things.
yeah.
Be more active. And then, you're also supposed to be very strong and stoic, but you are also supposed to be vulnerable. I mean, it's a confusing time for a lot of people out there. And I don't know if it's about balance really, but it's about harmony. And I think for every couple, it looks different. And the most important thing is for people to be able to feel that they can be themselves and that they can be confident in the choices that they are making and that people are not going to judge them. And frankly, it's nobody's business how you want to run it.
Isn't. Yeah.
That's so true. So I have a friend, she made a career switch, and by making this career switch, she actually took a pay cut. So her then boyfriend, now husband, actually offered to pay more for her mortgage. But a couple years down the road, she's actually making more than her husband now. And she offers to pay more mortgage back.
Okay.
But to me, I don't know if that
Traditional.
concept works. Why? The woman paying more for mortgage. I know, call me conservative or whatever, but I'm more comfortable with a 50-50 kind of thing, so that I'm always safeguarding my money. At no point in time am I paying maybe 70%.
Why are you so scared?
I don't know.
Still, get back one there.
Yeah. Then you got to see, I'll get back who is taking more. Or is it still 50-50? Because last time the guy pay more and then now the girl pay more,
I guess the concept of marriage or being in a partnership is ultimately that you and I still exist. But at the same time, we must remember that it's about us. And so for different people, I think it really is absolutely important for people to be financially independent. To make sure you are saving, you never know what's going to happen.
Rainy
There could be
days,
rainy days. For you as an individual or for you as a couple, both ways. But I personally feel that, in sickness and in health, in good times and bad times, really could mean, in law, we always think about worst case scenarios, right? So worst case scenario is, what if someone is permanently unfit to work? Whether it's an accident or something really unfortunate, and then in that case, that person is not even going to be contributing 50%. It's going to be contributing nothing,
0%.
And then what? Right? So
Wow, I've never considered it from this perspective.
And then would you be disgruntled? Would you feel how?
Yeah.
Real thoughts.
Real thoughts. Insurance is important, guys and girls.
Insurance is important.
But yeah, a question for the floor. If you had to choose between A, being a stay-at-home wife fulfilling traditional norms, or B, being a career woman focused on your job full-time, what would be your pick?
I want it all.
Yeah, I was going to say how to choose.
Yeah.
Are you leaning towards one side? Because for me, and it shocks me to say this, I'm a workaholic. Like, she knows it. But I would want to be a stay-at-home wife fulfilling traditional norms. Because these are moments that money can't buy. These are moments that once they're passed, time cannot turn back. I cannot believe that again. But can I still go and pursue a job at the age of 50, 60? I definitely can. So, it's like, these little things that I don't want to miss out on. Time with my parents, with my loved ones.
Oh, easy.
So your calendar must change a bit.
Yeah, must change a bit. The pink must reduce. The greens must go up.
But she's consciously been trying to do that. So, yeah.
And I think, look, people also appreciate effort. We shouldn't be too hard on ourselves. Again, it goes to this exact thing about wanting to have it all and maybe just not at the same time. But recognizing that time is short. I mean, it's like, wow,
It's never ending,
I want to have it all, but not at the same time, but time is short.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that women today are empowered and have the space and possibility to do anything. There's no bar, but it's about how do we then find the harmony in what we want to do. Personally, I'm not sure that I would be a stay-at-home mom or a career woman.
Okay.
I would like to think, I'll let you know again, maybe in a year or two, whether I have found that harmony for myself or not. But I think it's on us to try.
Correct. On that note, I want to share a study with you again. This is done by associate professor called Gan Yun Huen. So this professor had said that the reason women's roles have evolved in the workplace but have remained largely the same at home, especially when there are children involved, is due to biology. You know why? Because he said women often begin with nursing their infants and therefore are naturally more hands-on when the children are young. So this habit never leaves. So you are actually doing more and more. You're taking more and more on your plate.
Yep.
Your workplace involvements have never changed, but at home, it's more for you.
Yep.
Do you think that's going to be for you?
Sweat. Wow, this is like a reality 30-week check-in, like, wow, I really
soon
can
ah,
do
very
it or not.
soon, Nadia.
Wow, yeah, so far people have been saying I'm quite chill, but I'm not
is
sure
it?
after this whether I am going to be so chill. I think at the end of the day, it will be about how I prioritize. And I think, which is why also a lot of the steps towards more flexible work arrangements. Honestly, I think that COVID, while it was very challenging for a lot of us in a lot of different ways, one thing that has evolved out of it is this idea of more flexible work arrangements. And flexible work arrangements do work two ways, right? At the same time, while you may want to be able to 4 o'clock, go off a bit earlier to go and tapao or run an errand before things close, it also sometimes means that, you get home and then maybe you pick up your laptop to clear some emails at 7. I mean, it's a flexible means two-way trade-offs.
Yeah.
In that sense, I think COVID did us a solid that actually more people do a combination of work from home and work from office. And I think that idea of that trust is very important between employer and employee and how you then manage your time, work effectively, work efficiently and be able to deliver. So I do think we take on more and more roles.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, it is where your tribe comes in. I think, how can a partner support you through something like breastfeeding, for example? Do you have to be the one who changes every diaper? Can you afford to think about whether your mom or mom-in-law can support with confinement food? I think there are ways that you can try to balance it. But until you open your mouth and ask, or until, you must kai ko lah.
Yeah, must kai.
you don't open, then people also cannot offer you help.
They
So
won't know.
Right. Anything that I didn't want to do, like with regards to the child, for example, I would just use the excuse, I carry for 9 months already.
Yeah, exactly.
You try,
It's your turn.
9 months for the rest of your life. But I do think that we also hesitate to raise our hands and seek help because sometimes we feel like paiseh or, if I do that, then maybe I will look weak.
Yeah.
But actually, when you know that, okay, this is my limit, and you raise your hand, that actually to me is a show of strength rather than a show of weakness, because you're saying, I recognize this is where I'm at and I really need some help. And I think more often than not, whether it's your partner or your friends or your parents or your in-laws, I do think that people
They're
want
happy
to
to
be there.
extend help.
Yeah, they want to be there for you.
I think that's a very good point that Nadia has raised. If you don't open your mouth to ask, it can very easily lead to burnouts. So asking for help is one thing. I think setting clear work-life boundaries is also important. But I recognize that you say like integration, rather than like clear boundaries. But I do think that there needs to be a certain timetable that you can follow.
Yeah.
For example, after this time, no more checking of work emails. You focus on connection with your spouse, your children, or rest. Rest is so important.
Yeah.
What
Rest is part of the work too.
Exactly.
It is.
Exactly.
Self-care is a full-time job.
Yeah. And like saying no when necessary.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
Are
Don't feel
you-
guilty.
So you are the kind. You can say no one. You can reject people.
If you actually
Easy to talk.
if you actually had nothing, but then you're supposed to meet a friend, for example, but you're so tired, like you just want to lie down.
Could you? Would
You'll
you?
still go, right?
My husband will be like, oh, come, let's relax. If I have like a free afternoon, and then I will like, okay, relax, and then like 10 minutes later, I'll be like, all right, I need to go and clean. I cannot sit still. But I mean, having said that, I do think rest is part of the work. I do appreciate being able to have those pockets of moments. And I think, like you said, even if you integrate work and life, it's just one part of your identity. At the end of the day, you have to decide for yourself, okay, look, is someone going to die if I don't reply this email at 10 p.m.?
Chances are no lah.
Yeah, chances are no. And I think that's the kind of discipline that you also should set for yourself. And not just for yourself, but also for your child. Because they also need to know that sometimes, okay, Mommy is prioritizing me, right? And also that there are certain boundaries. I mean, I think you can't be checking your emails all the time. And then when your child wants screen time, it's very hard to explain, right?
Yeah, like
Because
why you can,
gotta-
but the child cannot.
So all things I in the back of my mind, okay?
You thought about it.
In the back of my mind, I thought about it, haven't landed, but
And I think, just overall, right, at the end of the day, you choose what's most important to you. You try and have it all, but I think we don't do everything at the same level. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Sometimes you willingly give things up, even though it could be nice, but I think sometimes you willingly give things up if there was something more important to you.
Correct.
Yeah.
I go back to my favorite metaphor, rubber balls or glass balls. What can you afford to drop and not have it shatter at this point in time in your life?
Yeah.
I think this episode of Nadia really provides many good reminders, that like women or men alike, we can have it all, but just not all at the same time. But
I do believe
finally,
that.
any final words for our listeners out there?
wow, final words, so heavy.
Okay, I help you. What do you think people can do, or like women especially, to not pressure themselves into thinking that they have to excel in every area?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for me personally is that society will have expectations of you. They can't help themselves.
I say fuck them, really. It's your life. You live what I always say this.
It's true. I mean, even something as an example, during political campaigning, you'll see that there are polls about which women candidates are the most attractive.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Where at?
Yeah,
Some random website.
Where? What's the...
How Forum?
Reddit.
How Zone?
How is
around.
it?
Oh, okay, How Zone.
And you'll see even articles, saying like, this is what the women candidates are wearing to the nomination centers. And so the expectation, the sort of implication then is you're expected to look good lah, even though
well.
while you are walking, sweating your guts out, but you're still expected to make sure you look very well and put together. And you're expected to be smart, but maybe don't talk back too much because otherwise then you're opinionated. Someone who you should take the lead, but maybe when you're young, maybe you're called bossy. I mean, this is like that whole Barbie.
Yeah.
This is like the Barbie mono, which I could not deliver with justice, so I shall not. But I think that at the end of the day, what's most important is your own expectations of yourself. And it's okay if you don't have it all figured out now. it's okay if it changes along the way. I think what's most important is that you and the people closest to you, the people who you love, you're very clear of where that sort of North Star and love bubble is. And that should be what you think about when you're making all these big decisions in life. So people can have expectations. Azura put it eloquently, which I will not say. But, I think while it's all well and good, and some of it is just well-meaning advice, which you can consider. But at the end of the day, go back to what feels real and what feels right for you.
And I'll tell you why I'm so against expectations, right? Especially from an outside point of view. It's only because at the end of the day, the one who has to deal with the consequences of that decision is yourself.
Yeah, they have no idea.
Yeah. They tell you what to do, but if that's not what you want and you do listen, you're paying for it. It's not them.
Yeah. They're going to go home and think about something else 5 minutes later.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Honestly, so you...
Yeah. So I would just say live for yourself and just be happy in that process and in that journey. With that, thank you so much, Nadia, for joining us on this episode.
For having me. Thank
I
you.
love your IG handle, by the way. It's called Samdin Going On.
Yeah, it's like something going on. Cute.
Yeah, so cute. Yeah, follow Nadia on Instagram and follow us as well at disclarity.co.
That's right. You can listen to us on Me Listen, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Turn on your notifications. We're also on YouTube.
So feel free to subscribe to us and leave comments in the comment section down below. I read them, okay? Thank you so much, Nadia.
Don't read all the comments, it'll drive you crazy.
It's true.
That's very true. That's very true as well. Alrighty, guys. Take care. We'll see you guys next time. Bye! Okay, at this point, how fluent is your Mandarin and Hokkien?
Wow. Purposely. Okay, dialect, I have to admit, is the 假八位,
okay.
kind of like base level. 华语是多一点啦。
Not bad at all.
Not bad.
可是不是第八波到啊，那个全部是你做了。
Better than mine then.